don't like him. I don't like him. I'm sure nobody else likes him either. But he has announced that there is a Lord of the Rings, The Hunt for Gollum movie, live action movie coming in 2026, and they have confirmed that Andy Serkis will play Gollum and will also be the director of this movie. Good for him, but it's a really weird. They're rebuilding, or I guess they're adding on to their current Lord of the Rings trilogy, or I guess what's the 6 movies, by tapping into a very offhand mention story of the hunt for Gollum that never was really talked about in the books, but just mentioned briefly in this.
Is this a? I mean, you might not know because we're not huge, Lord of the Rings lore people. Is this a sequel to Return of the King, or is this like a pocket story that kind of happens?
Prequel to the first 3 movies, but it happens after The Hobbit, but before Lord of the Rings. It's in the middle there.
Oh. Okay.
Because so there is a line in this. Aragorn says is talking to Gandalf where he that he heard about someone who had the ring, and Aragorn went hunting for him to look for him, and this is that movie. Essentially, is what they're taking. Like how did Gollum when Gollum left the cave to go find Bilbo, what does he know about where the ring went to at the end of the day?
Yeah, I mean, what do you do with Lord of the Rings? I mean, obviously, right now the strategy is you make money with it. Why not? Why wouldn't you do it?
Unless you're Amazon, you spend money with it.
Yeah, I mean, all you have to do, all you have to do is make one more movie, right, to re-release another like super expensive like box set, or to get people to buy them all again in like 8K. Maybe this aligns with like another like video standard or something. But it does beg the question of the longevity. Obviously, at some point in our lifetime, Chris, we might be elderly, but Lord of the Rings gets rebooted, right?
Yeah.
I mean, everyone will be like, why those original movies were perfect, why make them again? And it's like, well, because of money,
it's
and
a franchise.
Who knows, maybe they stretch them out. Yeah, maybe they stretch them out to 6 movies and they put miniseries on streaming alongside of them. But as of right now, it's in this kind of odd spot of just like nobody really wants to touch the original trilogy, so we're just kind of making stuff before it or around it, or technically not the same, and the rights holders are different. Like Amazon's, like you mentioned, has got the one for Prime, but there's a new one that's Warner Brothers adjacent.
Warner Brothers owns the film rights, but I think there's was it Embracer Group or somebody else owns literally everything else. Is weird.
Yeah, and I like that same group, I believe, also owns like the theme park rights too. So like obviously there's more Lord of the Rings on the horizon, but who's gonna do it right and justify it's just, it must be really difficult to be like a huge Lord of the Rings fan, because you just don't know what's coming and what's gonna happen.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, there's 2 sides. This one is, if you're fans of the originals and not the Hobbits, you have those. They're not touching them. Thank God they're not touching them, right? They're just leaving those things alone. They're actually putting them back in theaters this summer, in case you didn't know that, to bring even more money in. So that's cool that they're leaving those, and you can have those. If you like the Hobbits, great, you can have those too. But we're at a different interesting point where you mentioned, like, we talked about the War of the Rohirrim, the anime movie. Like, they're just throwing things at a wall to see what sticks, it feels like. Because we have the War of the Rohirrim anime movie. Amazon is doing the Rings of Power. I enjoyed the Rings of Power. I'm not a huge Lord of the Rings fan, so like I can slide myself in there to that the statics, but like they're just taking too long to make it. I think it's been 2 years since the last one came out, and we don't know when the next one is. And then again, they have this movie announced that is part of the live action stuff. It brings back Andy Serkis, Gollum himself, the guy who's essentially revolutionized motion capture, right, and playing those characters. I think it's great.
Yeah,
but like,
do we get like a? Do they do the awful move of giving us like a cameo of a slightly younger? Like, do we get like a toddler Frodo, or like a?
Is it Aragorn
DILF
focused
version
even
of Gandalf?
Well, is it even Aragorn? Like they can't bring back, obviously. Can't think of the actor's name, but like do they recast and put him in there? Like what is this for, and what does it do? I get it. Lord of the Rings has money potential, and they need to do something, but like we are like not just fans, but everyone who's Lord of the Rings, like, where does this all fit in? Where does it all come together? At what point do you draw that line and say it's going to be easier if we just start fresh and not have to linger on everything from the past 30 years? Because I literally, if you go watch The Hobbit versus Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson did both, but like the first ones are so practical and you can feel the love and the energy, and then The Hobbit's like, we had to crank this out so fast, it's all CG and it doesn't look that good, right? So
yeah, I mean, I can't believe I didn't see it until just now when I'm thinking about it. The closest analog to the Lord of the Rings,
say Star Wars?
like cinematically, it's Star Wars.
Yeah,
I mean, it starts off.
Yeah.
With the original trilogy, and then you do these Hobbit prequels that everyone pretty much hates, right? And now is the only direction to go is forward, right? You know, the original trilogy, we see our heroes kind of like save the day and save the galaxy / world, and then you kind of just have to reinvent a new threat, right? It didn't work for Star Wars for me overall on average. Well, and then you can easily kind of see like the little side, like Gollum is like basically like an Andor or a Mandalorian, right? You know, we're just like throwing a little side story.
The difference is Lord of the Rings essentially has for all intents and purposes a story Bible, right? Like even the purveyor of Tolkien's estate, they approve everything that kind of comes out of that, right? So that is a little bit different in Star Wars. Like even the new, we always say there's no direction in Star Wars, and I think Lord of the Rings at least has direction. Like this is what exists here, but at the same time, at what point do you lose the regular audience and just only cater to the Tolkien fans, right? Because again, you go read a Lord of the Rings book, it's so many names that I can't pronounce in my head, like, you know, or different creatures and races and languages. It's just, it gets out of control. So I like Lord of the Rings. I think they can do great things with it, but I don't know, after the absolute disaster the Gollum video game was last year, like one of the worst video games known to man. Yeah. I'm not excited for a Gollum movie, despite the fact I do love Andy Serkis and I know he does a great job with that and has a lot of care and passion for the world of Lord of the Rings. Like he even read the books, like remember he did the book on tape for the books. So I think there is hope here, but boy, when I see Gollum, I kind of just get like uninterested, to put it nicely. So yeah, but Lord of the Rings, watch it if you want to in theaters later this year. I would love it. I'd probably go back and watch the second one. Is that the good one? The second one? I'll probably go watch the second one in theaters if I get a chance, but we'll see. Mike, that is the show for today. Thank you for coming by. Thank you for being here. But if people know what you're up to, what you're doing, where can they find you at, buddy?